Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. And I tell you what, there's a little extra excitement in the air today because it's a special time of year around here. Our city looks great 12 months a year, but let's be honest, we sprinkle a little extra magic dust around town this time of year. Why, Bruce?
I'll tell you why. Because that's how we do it in Dublin, Lindsay.
Right. And in just a few days, we will host the world's best golfers. Our hotels and restaurants will be packed, and those drone shots from the Golf Channel and CBS Sports and the view from that Goodyear blimp must be pristine.
You're right. And it's time for the Memorial Tournament presented by Workday. And we couldn't be more excited and just a little nervous to welcome our guest.
Little nervous.
Little nervous. How's this for a resume intro? He's a husband, father of 5, grandfather of 2, a member of the prestigious American Society of Golf Architects, a best-selling author, philanthropic pioneer. He's also chair of both the Muirfield Village Golf Club and the Memorial Tournament, and his name is synonymous with the legendary golf excellence, Jack Nicklaus II. Welcome to Link Ahead.
Well, thanks for having me on Lindsay and Bruce. Gosh, that was quite a list of accolades. So I appreciate that. Somebody else obviously prepared that.
I know. Well, we're just so happy to have you. And I know, Bruce, you love all of our guests, but when we have athletes and people related to sports, you always get really excited.
I sit up a little straighter in my seat.
Well, it's hard to know where to begin here. So why don't we just jump in with the calendar and what's coming up in a matter of days, the 2024 Memorial Golf Tournament. Every year, the Memorial team raises an already high bar. You and the entire team look to grow the experience for golfers and visitors each year. What can we look forward to this year?
Well, this year will be a little bit different as we are an elevated event on the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour has been restructuring over the last year and a half. And we're going to have a field which is much smaller than typical for where we were last year. We're going to have basically the top 70 to 75 players in the world coming to Muirfield Village Golf Club. And I'm excited for the fireworks that are going to happen. You're going to see some great golf. I was up in Ohio at Muirfield Village a couple of weeks ago for the Legends Luncheon, and I got a chance to go around the golf course. The golf course coming out of spring looks fantastic. I think we've got a great stage and for a lot of great players, the best in the world to come and show off in front of us here in the city of Dublin.
Jack, let's talk a couple of straight golf questions. Of the players coming this year, who's playing well right now and whose game matches up with the course?
You know, some of our recent past champions, last year, actually our reigning champion, current reigning FedEx champion, Victor Hovland. Mm-hmm. He's playing very well, played well the last couple of weeks. Of course, you have to mention the world #1 player, Scotty Scheffler, is coming into town. And, Scotty, I think he's finished the last 2 appearances. He's finished 3rd at the Memorial. So he's played very well at our event. So I got to tell you something. We were at the Legends Luncheon, and I asked my father about Scotty's the run that he had right around the Masters time. And Scotty, in 5 tournaments in a row, went first, second, first. And my dad said that in all of his career, he does not remember having a stretch that good. Which is a heck of a statement.
Amazing accolades there. Wow.
Well, this isn't breaking news for those of us who follow golf. These guys look like outside linebackers now, and they're ripped and driving the ball 300-plus yards off the tee. How do you continually make a golf course like Muirfield challenging for them?
Well, it is a challenge, to keep up with the golf ball and the equipment. The guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster. I think faster is the biggest thing. The club head speed is just amazing what they're able to produce. So we have to respond by making the course a little bit longer, put some bunker locations out to where the long hitters really, they can still bomb it out there over 300 yards, but they have to be more precise if they're going to do so. The greens, we keep the greens very fast. A lot of times the greens are the only defenses that a golf course has anymore because the guys can hit it so far. So our greens will, I'm sure, be once again lightning fast. Chad Marks, our superintendent, and his staff work very, very hard to accomplish that. We did redesign or actually kind of tweak the 16th hole. I love that, Dad always listens to the players, dialogue on the course and what they think. And the last few years, they've had a tough time with the 16th hole that it didn't quite receive a golf ball that the players thought it should. So we went out. My dad allowed me to tag along and looked at the green surface, and we realized that typically greens will probably pitch from back to front a little bit to hold a golf ball on the green in the 16th hole at about midsection, slope back. So that had a lot to do with the ball not stopping on the green, as well as, so we corrected that. Raised the back of the green slightly, but also we changed the angle of the tee location. We moved the back tee to the right as it relates to coming into the green. So the players are hitting alongside the water as opposed to across the water coming into the green. So we're always trying to improve. I love that Dad is always doing that. He's amazing.
And you're an absolute expert at this, Jack, because you've designed close to 50 courses all over the world and have been to a part of many of your dad's 320 global designs over his 55-year career. What has changed in course design over those years?
It has changed. And I mentioned a minute ago about the length of the golf courses. So many of the great golf courses are becoming obsolete simply because the golf holes, which used to be a driver 2-iron, are now a driver wedge. And we're trying to respond to that. So you're seeing the golf courses getting longer and longer, but really the basic golf shot value remains constant with risk, reward, and fairness and challenge. I think, the maintenance of golf courses have allowed us to subdue some things that we haven't done in the past as far as, you look at how irrigation, you can have really hard irrigation lines where you can have a real direct contrast between rough and fairway and even the rough and a desert client. So you have very hard lines there, which makes it very pretty for the eye. And speaking of eye, I think you see a lot more eye candy on golf courses today. And what I mean by that is, the bunkering, we're able to maintain crazy looking bunkers and bringing sand dunes mostly on the perimeters of the golf hole. But still, we have to keep in mind that you've got to have good shot values, even with all that eye candy going on. So that was a long answer, but it's really fun. It's fun to do. It's fun to work in the properties and, listen to the ideas that, that the developers and the owners have.
Well, let's talk about Muirfield Village Golf Club because you were there from the beginning as a young boy walking in the woods of Dublin years before it became one of the best courses on the PGA Tour. We watched a video recently where you said you were probably 10 or 11 years old and you remember seeing copperhead snakes along the creeks that run throughout the course. Take us back to those early days. This was a piece of land where your dad and grandfather hunted, right?
They did. It really goes back to, 1966, Dad was playing the Masters, and he's always idolized Bob Jones, Bob Jones' career and what Bob Jones was able to create at Augusta National. And Dad was down there with a group of his dear friends from Columbus, Ohio that he grew up with. And he said, you know what, I'd really like to try to duplicate something like this, what Mr. Jones has created in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. And yes, there's pictures of myself walking around the golf course. Of course, you got to understand the age. Dad's 26 and 66. I think they bought the land in 68. My dad's 28, which is phenomenal to think he had this kind of foresight at that
Right.
young age. But you got to understand, I was maybe 6 or 7 years old at that time. So I would have been in the mud and I probably would have found more snakes than anybody. But no, he wanted to not only, just create a great golf venue in his hometown, but he wanted to give back. He wanted to give back. He wanted to bring what was best in golf and bring it back to his hometown. And he wanted to have a big charitable component, which we're so proud of. Our give back at the memorial to the hometown of Greater Columbus Charities is amazing, particularly Nationwide Children's Hospital. But and he also wanted to honor greats of golf's past and present. And you'll see that at our honoree ceremony each year where we honor the golfers of past and present. I'm so proud of what he was able to create. It's a great honor for me to be a small part of it. And but to think that Dad had that sight and at such a young age to do what he did and create what he created. It's amazing.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. I mean, this really put Dublin on the map.
Yeah.
Until Jack's vision from Muirfield in the late 60s and early 70s, Dublin had, and I think, fact check me on this, one stoplight, two police officers, two firefighters, 700 residents, and less than $3,000 in the bank.
That is crazy.
I don't know if that could be right, but could you talk about how Dublin has really grown up with the Memorial Tournament, and that both are recognized as world class now?
Oh my gosh! Well, I think we've grown up together. I think there's over 50,000 residents in Dublin right now. Back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, I think there was one very small high school. So,
yep.
Muirfield Village and Muirfield Village Golf Club and Dublin have really grown up together. It's funny, I didn't know the number of bank accounts. I think it's 3,000. I think probably $40 of that was when I was going 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit going through the little town of Shawnee Hills, right next door.
I mean, did you have any idea if you were channeling that younger version of yourself that this community of 2,400 families and now there's more than 8,000 residents? Did anyone have that kind of idea or foresight other than your dad?
Yeah, I put it into perspective. I see my kids right now are about that age. They're 25 to 34. And, I couldn't even imagine them, having the kind of sight to develop something that was created here in the city of Dublin, Muirfield Village, and the Memorial Tournament. But kids always amaze us. I'm sure that my dad amazed his mom and dad by doing what he did. But no, the town's grown up together. I think we complement each other wonderfully. We're very proud of our association with Dublin, and I think that's reciprocal.
Absolutely. And when a golf tournament like this comes to Dublin, there are many things that fly under the radar to make it happen, not least of all the volunteers. You have an army of them. How do you recruit them, and why do so many come back year after year to volunteer?
Well, we have over 3,000 volunteers that help us out at the Memorial Tournament. We would not be able to host the Memorial Tournament without the help of these volunteers, and they are passionate about the give back component. That give back goes largely to the Nationwide Children's Hospital. We also have a new charity that we're involved with now, which is Steph and Aisha Curry's Eat, Learn, and Play charity, which Workday, our presenting sponsor, has been involved with for years. And then, of course, the tie-in with the Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation, which Mom and Dad started here in South Florida. And we use that as a pass-through foundation from the Memorial Tournament, where all funds go straight through our organization directly into the local charities at Columbus. So we're so proud of our volunteers, and I cannot tip my hat enough to their help. It wouldn't happen without them.
Can you go into more detail about the Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation?
It really goes back many years ago. My sister Nan, actually, it turned out, she kept choking. She kept losing her breath, and Mom and Dad kept taking her to the hospital, and they never figured out what it was. Eventually, they did realize that a crayon got stuck in her windpipe, and sometimes it hurt her, sometimes it didn't. So anyway, long story made short, they saved Nan, Nationwide Children's Hospital, and my parents got together and said, you know what, if we're ever in a position to help children and give back, we're going to do just that with children's health care. And so, the tournament has given back to that hospital for years and years, and they got, several years back, they said, you know what, we'd really like to do something like this in our hometown. And at the time, there was really a hospital in Miami, a children's hospital in Miami, and one in Orlando, the Joe DiMaggio and the Arnold Palmer, and nothing in between. And it's grown so much. I want to say that since inception, they've raised over $200 million
That's just incredible.
for these children.
Wow. Just incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. And I get a little choked up about it because, you see, the children that are helped, and you really can't explain it until you go to the hospital and you really see it. You see the children that are, they're smiling today where they probably wouldn't be here otherwise.
Right.
What an impact and what a legacy. And I'm so glad you shared that story about your sister. I've been to the Legends Luncheon several years in a row, and I've heard your dad tell that story. And every time I hear it, like you said, it kind of chokes you up. And I learn kind of a new detail each time. I don't think I had known that there was a crayon stuck there. But you can tell it's just really personal for your family. So thanks for sharing that story. And you're no stranger to sharing stories. You also wrote a best-selling book titled Best Seat in the House. There's so much in it, but we have to talk about a couple of examples. You wrote with your dad, and likely with many of the greats in sports, what makes them great isn't 100% genetically transferable. So I'm sorry for that. But
No,
they're
it's not. I will agree with you.
and they're not necessarily great coaches of their sport. And you wrote how you were trying to find out what enabled your dad to lock in and focus as a golfer, and he really just couldn't explain it. So talk a little bit more about that.
I played some amateur golf and some professional golf, growing up when I was younger. And I was working with a sports psychologist. I'll never forget this. And the first meeting, he gave me a Q&A. Basically, well, he gave me questions. He gave me about 5 or 6 questions to go back and ask my father. And one of the questions was exactly as you mentioned, like, how do you concentrate? How do you not see everything that's going on the periphery and be able to accomplish the task at hand. And so I went back and I asked my dad that question, among others, and he looked at me with such a bewildered face. He goes, what do you mean? I just do it. I don't even think about it. And I said, Dad, that's really not helping me. He said, well, that's what I do. And I can tell you, I've caddied for my dad. This one particular time at Augusta National, it was the 4th green. There was a traffic light right behind the 4th green several years ago. Dad's over a 4-foot putt, and literally you hear this car screeching, tires screeching on the road, and a crash. Obviously, a car had not been able to stop soon enough, crashed into another car. Dad's over his putt. The gallery kind of stood up and, oh my gosh, what just happened? Dad didn't even budge, knocked in his putt. I'm walking to the next hole. I said, Dad, did you not hear that car accident? He goes, what? What are you talking about?
He was locked in.
And that's what makes him great, right?
He's unbelievable in that ability. But you know what? I think there's many factors in success, but I don't know. Obviously, Dad had a lot of talent. You don't accomplish what he has without great talent, but his work ethic is unparalleled. Even today, Mom and Dad are both 84. And they are tireless. I see it in both of them. They're actually channeling many of their efforts towards charitable efforts right now, and they absolutely are tireless.
Another point from the book that I took away as a parent, you wrote that your father tried really, really hard to be present and to limit his travel, even with the demands of his career. That he was absolutely dedicated as a husband first and a father. So when he was home with the family, he was truly home with his family. Can you talk about that?
Well, there's no question. He did not have a typical 9-to-5 job. As you can imagine, he's traveling all over the world, playing golf. The golf events are not in your backyard. So he made a pact with my mom early on, never to be gone from the home more than 2 weeks at a time. And I think he stuck to that, with the exception of maybe, I think it was just twice. That's not an easy thing to do. And Dad, I think Dad's success, allowed him to be able to travel back home. So yes, he was successful and he had the means to get back home, but not many parents, fathers and or moms, make that choice to be home. Mom and Dad, we always felt like we were their number one priority. We felt like we were loved unconditionally, and when they were there, they weren't just there; they were present. We knew that they were dialed in and paying attention to us. So proud of that. And if I've tried to instill the same actions from myself onto my children. I missed a lot of sporting events that I wish I had been there, but I tried to attend as many as I could. And I think it's important that we are there for our children.
Absolutely.
Right. So as we start to wrap up our conversation, let's come back to the tournament itself this year. So what keeps you fired up, excited about it year after year?
Ohio will always be my home away from home. You know, I was born in Ohio, grew up in Florida, but Ohio will always remain another home for me. It's when Ohio is awakening. You know, it's springtime. The fans are absolutely fantastic. You know, the Columbus, Ohio base fans support all the events, including the Memorial Tournament. So it's just fun for me to come back. And I mentioned earlier the fireworks that happen when the players get out there and the fans get behind it. It's a magical time of year. I think I'd be remiss not to mention, you know, the efforts of Dan Sullivan, our tournament director, all of our, you know, our heads of you know, offices, you know, Larry Dornish, our head golf professional, Stephen Detmer, our head chef, of course, Nicklaus II, our general manager, Chad Marks, our superintendent. I can go on and on. Everybody works so hard, and our fans come and enjoy a great week, but it's really the entire year we work very hard to present the golf course and bring in the field for that one special week. So, yeah, I'm very proud of everybody.
Oh, we couldn't agree more. I mean, we've seen many tournaments, and you just feel the excitement build until it's here. So
absolutely.
Jack, we close every episode with a few rapid fire questions. So be ready. So let's jump right in.
All right. I'll try my best.
All right. What's the hardest hole for you to play at Muirfield?
18. It requires two really good golf shots. I think the drive is so difficult. It's overlooked, but you know, it's a fairway that slopes right to left on the landing area. You've got water on the outside of it and bunkers protecting the inside. So if you don't hit a good drive off that tee, it's kind of a waterfall effect. The second shot becomes much more difficult. Second shot, I think, is very tough. If you're short, you're going to get that apron, the false front where a ball is going to come right back to maybe 30 yards short of the green. And of course, if you go long, the bunkers in the back of the green are very difficult to stop a ball anywhere near the hole. So I think 18 is really, it's always been a challenge for me.
Okay, besides Muirfield, what's your favorite course to play in the U.S.?
In the U.S., the Bears Club. That's our local course down in Jupiter, Florida. And it's really, Dad has two flagship golf courses, one being Muirfield Village and the second being the Bears Club. So it's my home course. It's a challenge every day, and it's a fun course to play every day.
All right. Favorite course worldwide?
Oh, I honestly, there's a lot of courses I love, but the one that comes to mind immediately is the old course at St. Andrews. It's where what it means in the game of golf. It's where golf was started, where it began. And even though the golf ball keeps going further and further, that course remains relevant. Just for the bunker locations and the way the course is set up, I love it.
Okay, favorite course that you've designed?
The last one I did.
Keep getting better, right?
Yeah, well, I hope so. A little bit like your children, you know, you love everyone. You get intimately involved with every one of them. The last course I opened was the Quixote Club. It's in Sumter, South Carolina. And it was really fun to do. I worked along with Chris Pence and to share thoughts with him was a challenge, but it was really fun. And it's fun to work with somebody that you don't always see things exactly the same. And I think we came up with a really fun golf course. It's on a small piece of property, but again, it defends itself really well. We've got some very interesting greens.
All right, fill in the blank here. To keep evolving and attracting players of all ages, the game of golf needs to do a better job of blank.
It's maybe a longer answer than short, but you've got to. I think we have to keep the game more and more accessible to young golfers coming up. I think that's very important. And then I think the other part of the answer I would come up with is, you know, I think as we embrace the traditions of the game, we also have to make sure that it remains a game. You know, so many people get worked up about, you know, mishitting a shot, not making a putt, but ultimately it's a game. We're out there to have fun. Yeah, we want to compete. We want to win. But, you know, remember it's a game, and we got to keep a smile on our faces throughout the golf game.
All right, Jack, be honest. Was there a discussion when you told your parents, hey, I'm not going to be a Buckeye, I'm going to be a Tar Heel at UNC Chapel Hill?
I will always be a Buckeye.
Good answer.
Good answer.
But no, the Buckeyes were not that interested in me in coming to play golf for them.
There you go.
And the Tar Heels were.
Yep.
And I had an amazing experience at North Carolina. I love North Carolina. My son, Will, I have 5 children. My youngest ended up playing lacrosse there. So I got to kind of go back and relive some of my youthful times, not fully, but it was fun to go back to school. But no, I will always be a Buckeye. There's no question about it.
Jack, I do have to ask, milkshakes, do you have easy access, and are you allowed to go in and whenever you want to acquire one?
And can you take friends?
Yeah.
Well, I do try to limit the milkshakes because they are definitely a big gut bomb, but they are so good. Secret recipe, I can't divulge the recipe, but I've loved milkshakes all of my life. Milkshakes at Muirfield Village are the best.
What is your flavor, your go-to flavor?
My favorite is, and not pandering to the audience, is a Buckeye. It's a chocolate and peanut butter milkshake that is so good. So that's my favorite.
Okay.
A favorite piece of advice from your dad that you passed on to your kids?
I've watched Dad compete over so many years, and I've watched my children compete over so many years. And I think as a blanket rule, I'd say, you know what, you compete to win. You compete fairly, but you compete to win. Not everybody's going to win 18 majors. So you try to win, but you also have to remember to enjoy the journey.
Great advice. Now, same question, but the favorite piece of advice from your mom, the First Lady of Golf, Barbara Nicklaus.
Well, she is the kindest person that I've ever known. Considerate to everybody. And I would say the greatest, the most resounding advice that I remember from her, and I still do, is the golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated yourself. I've watched her. That's how she lives. It's just not a theme. It's the way she lives her life.
That's amazing. Now, Jack, we don't know if you have time to really go out while you're here, but do you have a favorite? So. I hope, yeah, favorite restaurant in Dublin?
Mom's Kitchen.
Oh, all right. That's the first time we've gotten that answer.
That's outstanding. Oh my.
I have to say that, but it's honest. I love the breakfasts and the dinners with Mom and Dad during the tournament, and we don't get out a lot. But my kids will drag me out when they come up for the event. My kids and my wife will drag me out. But honestly, my favorite place is Mom's Kitchen.
All right, Jack Nicklaus II, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. So what a pleasure it's been. Thank you so much.
Bruce and Lindsay, thanks for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
And to our listeners, thank you as well for taking the time to connect with your city on the Link Ahead podcast. And I wanted to mention that we were honored to win a Central Ohio PRSA Prism Award last week. So congrats, Bruce.
Hey, congrats to you, because again, this was your brainchild. You brought Scott in and we are knocking it out of the park.
Oh, well, thank you for all of your work. Thank you for our listeners, and thanks to our producer, Scott Light, for making us an award-winning podcast.
Absolutely. And tune in next time as we continue to explore the many personalities and experiences that make Dublin a thriving place to live, work, and grow.